Okay, guys, 1 minute or less on this. Every day now I have to check the headlines because they're throwing so much crap at us daily. I used to do it every so often in the past just to make sure Dubuque was still with us. Every day it tempts me with something that I feel like, do I need to talk about this? To preempt my regularly scheduled video. Well, I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to stick to the impossible logistics, which makes no sense, reality breakdown, if any bit of it's true, how Napoleon and other great conquerors go back to Genghis the Khan, can move these armies all over the world. That's what I want to talk about today, because I just finished the horrible, wretched Napoleon movie with, what's that little sawed-off Joaquin Phoenix. Okay. Again, Matt, a movie's leading me into the topic, but I'm going to talk more about the topic and the impossible story of Napoleon than the movie, although I'm going to mention the movie. So here we go again. And what do I have, 15 seconds left? This is ridiculous. Not Nilk, if you're listening to me. These headlines are getting ridiculous. Trump says U.S. will take over Gaza and Palestinians should leave. So let me get this straight. You and your ancestors have been in that region of the world for potentially over 10,000 years. And they should just get up and pack their bags. Get out! U.S. is coming in. Get out. We're going to make strip malls here and rollerblading parks. Palestinians, you got 30 days. Get the F out. Sorry, the princess in Braveheart to William Wallace. But you cannot complete the conquest so far from your shelter and supply. You cannot complete the conquest so far from your shelter and supply. And then I watched this movie with this little sawed-off Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon. Oh, they go into Italy, and they go into Russia, and then they go into Egypt, moving 40, 50,000 people all over the world. It just makes no sense. I don't even know where to begin with this. I called Greg, and I said, is it just me? Or, how do they feed these troops as they move them all over the world? Every night they're just sleeping in the dirt and they just continue to go along with this? I mean, Greg, is this just me? And he said, no, that's always bothered me. How you move armies all over the world. Just the logistics of just water at 8 pounds per gallon. Just water is impossible to me. So I don't know if this is going to go into the area of fake history, which it's pretty hard to fake because it's only a few generations back. It's not that far from today's date. Or are we going to get into the reality breakdown territory? I don't know. I'm just telling you right now. And again, I do 5 videos a week. I don't have this all planned out. No travel tours, whatever. Just do it on the fly. All I know is there's a huge problem with not just the Napoleon story, the story of every great leader that moved tens of thousands of soldiers all over the world. Over the course of history, the story of kings or emperors or generals leading their massive armies to invade another country, some are more believable than others. So Xerxes and the Persian Empire, and the famous story depicted in the movie 300 about the hot gates, and Leonidas, the Spartans and the Greeks pushing them back. I don't know what really happened, but this makes more sense, is what I'm saying, than Napoleon and some of the other ones we'll look at. So this is the Persian Empire. I mean, it goes all the way up, basically, to Greece. And if they chose to take their ships across for that sort of invasion, well, this is possible. You take your ships, you bring your army across in ships, you land, you have supplies on the ships, you have a limited number of time to take over Greece, secure the towns, whatever you need to do. I mean, of course, the whole story about 300 people defending hot gates against, the numbers have been inflated to a million or more. I mean, that's all. It's pretty well known that whatever battle took place there, of course, the story of it is become a fairy tale, of course. Sure, the Greeks were vastly outnumbered, but it's not, of course, what the movie 300 presents. But anyway, this is possible. Look at the scope of the Persian Empire. It leads right up to Greece. They could amass their supplies in the ships for months. Take the ships over, land, but watch what happens when we look at Napoleon or Genghis Khan trying to lead armies. The whole supply line breaks down. It's impossible to me. Okay, guys, we're going to look at this more closely. And before some of you get upset at me for using words like impossible, unbelievable, I just want to give you a little bit of a glimpse as to what we're going to see here. The number over a 20-year period, I believe, the number of countries that go to war with each other, that change alliances. And again, a lot of countries that change alliance, history will say Napoleon not just threatened them, he took an army in, had at least one or two victories. I mean, the number, I'm just going back and forth here, guys, but the number of countries that go into different colors, the alliances with Napoleon, against Napoleon, this isn't just happening via board games. Napoleon is in front of his fireplace. He's sending a pigeon out with his next move of his board game. He's sending armies around. That's what's so impossible. I mean, just look at this. And we're going to look at this slowly. I'm going to read the captions. There's no way all of this could have happened. I don't know how to explain it. Well, Matt, all you do is cry fake world and just do it again. Okay, well, it's as good as anything else. Fake world, it's as good as anything else. This is impossible. Impossible. All right. Oh, brother, I forgot about this stupid shit with the hidden hand or high paintings with the one hand in the jacket. Just stop it. Make it stop. What did I say last time? A year ago, we looked at this. There's a couple cockroaches got underneath the jacket. And then, get your hand out of there. There's a cockroach in my jacket. Well, I'm going to have to paint it that way if you leave your hand in there much longer. Paint it that way. I can't have these cockroach bed bugs in my jacket. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't want to get into, Matt, don't you know about the hidden hand? And I don't care about all that initiation horse shit. In terms of what I really want to express to you, this painting of Napoleon leading his armies is as good as any. Now, it seems like common sense. Most people will be like, Matt, Pootie Tang Award. But have you really thought about it? How many people out there, not just you guys, we think about things a little bit differently, don't we? How many people have ever really thought about it? I'm going to show you the changing map. It might take 5, 8, 10 minutes, all the different things, how the map changes. Every case leading these armies, 1,000 miles here, 400 miles there, 700 miles south, Italy and Egypt. Well, how? Is this another? Does he have his hand in his jacket again? What the? Get your hand out your jacket all the time. I'm tired of that. Leading his armies. Okay. Well, where's the water come from? We got canteens. Did you pack your canteen? It takes months. Have you ever really thought about this? It takes months to push up towards Russia or Prussia, whatever that is. I grew up in King of Prussia. We didn't know what the hell Prussia was as a young man growing up. We had no idea what that was even about, except there's a big mall there. When I was in college, I learned, that was a country? That used to be a country called Prussia? And I grew up in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. It takes months to move where the water by itself would be impossible. Okay, Matt, we know where you're going. Get it over with in less than a minute. We know where you're going with this, Matt. Food. What did they just give? Get out your bows and arrows. Go hunt your rabbits. Go hunt your squirrels and your little chipmunks. And what did Patina say? Poor little squirrels. That's where Big Daddy hangs all his meat. Did they just stop off at Big Daddy's? See, let me get this straight, Napoleon. You and your Jimmy, you come in here, no appointment, no nothing, and you want my meat for your army coming through Kentucky? Or was he Big Kentucky? It doesn't matter where Big Daddy was. Where does the food come from? Where, they have a whole supply. Matt, they ain't got no freight trains on the back end. They ain't got no FedEx delivery. Where'd the food come from? Where'd the water come from? I mean, they're sleeping in the dirt. I just don't get it. Now, we'll have the reality conversation on the back end, and we will think in terms of, we'll come up with ideas, let's say the average man or woman on the street won't come up with. But let's just take it one step at a time. Get your hand out your jacket, boy. One more painting to look at in this light. How many people down the block from you have ever thought about these things? They just read your history. It all just makes sense. Here's a paint at the bottom. It says, a painting about the failure of the Russian invasion of 1812 by Napoleon and his army. Why is his capitalized? Who inspire the explosive 1812 overture by Tchaikovsky. 1812 over da 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 da. I think, doesn't they play that right before Bill Murray as Carl in Caddyshack started to blow up all the different holes where the gopher was. I think that's what they played. Matt, you have to relate it to every dumb movie. I do. My mind doesn't work if I can't do things like that. So here's the army traveling in. He took Moscow, but they had like abandoned Moscow, whatever. And it's like, okay, let's just keep trudging on. And the army would be like, what are we doing? I have nowhere. I don't got no Russian stove. I got nowhere to sleep. I'm going to just sleep out in the snow. They'd be sick with pneumonia inside of 3 days. Well, there's no tents, a few tents for the officers, I guess. Where's the meat? Where's the water? The canteen on your breastplate is all frozen up. It's a big block of ice. And Napoleon said, just lick it. You'll get your moisture that way. Just lick it. It doesn't make any sense. Armies trudging on, even in the best of conditions. What, a week or two? It's like, I'm tired of sleeping in the dirt. Let's get out of here. Let's go home. Okay, fuck this guy, Napoleon. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's a reality breakdown. One more thing. Napoleon's army, of course, all beaten up in Russia. Note the date here. Remember the 1812 overture by blank, Bueller, Tchaikovsky, 1812, Napoleon's all beaten up. Now, let me get this straight. France and England had been at war on and off, 1,000 years. So right when Napoleon's at his weakest, the UK, it's not the UK, it's England, decides to fight another war with the Americans, the War of 1812. We're going to go back across the Atlantic, and we're going to fight again. We just got our asses beaten up. Mike Tyson beat down, but just when Napoleon's at his weakest, we're going to go fight the Americans again. And the advisor said, shouldn't we take advantage of Napoleon's weakness? This is a one chance in 1,000-year opportunity. Nah, let's go back to the United States. What the hell's going on? Not that it didn't happen, guys. It did happen. It's only a few generations back. But it's a not-milk script. It's all planned out by Albert Pike's great-grandfather. Real battles took place, but everything in this world has been manipulated for thousands of years by a group of assholes. Okay, here we go. I thought I'd have to do this with a series of maps to show you how impossible this all is, and a reality conversation will be last. But this website puts it all together. So in blue, light blue, the French Empire, French influence. The red is coalitions against Napoleon, coalitions that will have to stand up to Napoleon. French allies in purple, in this case Spain. The bottom right, the ticker, it's showing you week by week changes in alliances and territory. Week by week, this website's saying we show you week by week all the changes. So 4 in September, 4 in October, and then the little headlines. June of 1800, France and Austria sign a temporary ceasefire. It's going so fast, I can't keep up with it. February of 1801, the Treaty of whatever is signed. Austria is out of the war. March 1801, Naples in Italy signs a treaty with France. 1801, Portugal signs the Treaty of something or other, ceding border territory to Spain. We're up to March of 1802. The Treaty of whatever is signed between France, Spain, and Britain, essentially ending the conflict for a few weeks. Next, the Treaty of Paris is signed, ending the war with the Ottoman Empire. Oh, a little side war with the little old Ottoman Empire. They're no big deal. The Ottoman Empire, fuck them. They ain't shit. May of 1803, the UK declares war on France, beginning the War of the Third Coalition and the Napoleonic Wars. No, he's been at war a lot longer than that. 1804, the Austrian Empire is formed in response to the French Empire. December 1804, Spain declares war on the UK. December 1805, Austria leaves the Third Coalition, signing the Peace of Pressburg. Austria ceded lands but got Salzburg as compensation. You got little old Salzburg? You got screwed. Who the hell wants Salzburg? 1805, Austria leaves the Third Coalition, signing the... Can't keep up. 1806, this is week to week. Prussia, that's where the mall is, declares war on France. Now Prussia wants in, beginning the war with the Fourth Coalition. 1806, war breaks out between Russia and the Ottoman Empire. Oh, let's fight a little side battle with them again. What the hell is going on? This is impossible. Treaties of whatever are signed with Russia and Prussia, ending the war with them. Okay, yeah, we got bigger problems. Napoleon. So the purple now is French allies, and the Russians are going to be French allies until they break their alliance and form a new pact with the UK or England, and then Napoleon's going to have to go back in there to teach them a lesson. May of 1808, Napoleon betrays Spain and puts his brother on the Spanish throne. You're going to accept my brother. That's not going to go too well, Napoleon. Who would do that? For what reason? This is ridiculous. Reality, not no reality. You have derailed. Even if this is all true, even if it's real, it's fake. Think about that. April of 1809, Austria can't keep up with it. All this stuff around Europe is happening week to week. Give me a break. This is an insult to my intelligence. An armistice is signed between Austria and France. That means a ceasefire. September 1809, can't keep up with it. The Treaty of Paris is signed, ending the war with Sweden. Sweden? Who would go to war with Sweden? What you going to get out of it if you win? What they got up there? Oh, a pause. A respite. Oh, I feel as tired as a marching army doing this. Everybody take a break. Here we go again. The Treaty of Paris is signed, ending the war with Sweden. Sweden declares war on Britain, but takes no action. But no action is ever taken. I like that tactic. Go to war, but do nothing. I got to remember that. If everybody would do that, go to war all you want, but do nothing. That is brilliant. Imagine the lives that would be saved. Or just play it on a board game. Send carrier pigeons back and forth. Is there a Star Trek episode where they fight war like that because the losses are unacceptable, so they do it basically virtually or digitally? Makes more sense. May of 1812, Russia flashed yellow for just a few days. What happened there? Russia and the Ottomans signed the Treaty of Bucharest. June of 1812, Napoleon begins the invasion of Russia. That's real smart. 1812, Prussia signs a truce with Russia and starts to build a mall outside Philadelphia. 1813, Prussia joins the Allies and builds a footlocker. Sweden joins the Allies against Napoleon. France couldn't get it in. The truce ends, of course, as they all do. Russia joins the Allies. 1813 of November, the Confederation of the Rhine is dissolved. 1814 January, Denmark signs the Treaty of Kiel, giving Sweden something or other. Napoleon is officially abdicated. 1814. That means he's taken off. He's no longer the head guy. Norway declares independence from Sweden. Well, it's about time. Treaty of Paris, 1814 May. Can't keep up. It's week to week. After the brief war, Norway is reunited with Sweden. Reunited, and the 7th coalition forms. The 7th coalition against Napoleon? Why don't you just keep your first coalition, get it right the first time? The Congress of Vienna finishes redrawing the rest of Europe. September 1815, remaining pro-Napoleon or pro-Murat forts surrender. Who could be pro-Napoleon at this point in history, where he just marched armies for 15 or more years all over Europe? Even when the point he was first consulate in 1799, he still was marching his armies. Thank you, Mr. Website, whoever did this. Just saved me hours of work. Matt, what's your favorite part of all that? Without a doubt, this part. Look, he's going to go into Russia there. See, it's August of 1812. See, it's getting blue. The line's getting blue. He's pushing into Russia there, and then it just doesn't go too well. And then he goes in, and come back out. This is my favorite part. Let me go back and show that to you again. There he goes, push the blue into the red. There he goes, blue, and then run away. There he comes back out. That's without a doubt my favorite part. I hope he at least grabbed a couple cases of vodka. But you cannot, William Wallace, complete the conquest so far from your shelter and supplies. The king desires peace. He declares it. Let me tell you, woman, about Longshank's notion of peace. I was led into this hut where people were hanging as a little boy. He doesn't quite say that. But remember what this video is about. Don't see that there's any way possible that these armies could move around like this. Now, I'm open-minded. If a professor down here from Villanova wants to explain it to me and it makes sense to me, I'll make an apology video to what I'm doing here and today. This shows Napoleon Bonaparte's major battles. It says, over the course of more than 2 decades, Napoleon's armies battled across the breadth of Europe, For a time, they won an empire for France that spanned the continent, but a multinational coalition ended Napoleon's reign at Waterloo in June 1815. Multinational coalition? It sounds like the UN. Is this the start of the UN? Wouldn't that be disgusting? Did this multinational coalition with those little blue helmets? We gonna be peacekeepers. They're just here to keep the peace. This was the start of the UN. I'm now on Napoleon's side. Anything that favored the start of UN is the bigger villain. All right, guys, let's take a 3-minute break before returning to the prior conversation, which will get into reality breakdown territory. We'll do that on the back end. But yeah, I just saw the movie, which led me thinking, how is he moving all these armies around? And I've thought about this for years, of course. And Greg said he has for years. It just doesn't make sense. But the movie put me over the top in terms of making this video. I was no expert on what history says Napoleon did or didn't do. Now, the movie's not as bad as everybody says. It's slow at parts. I think it pushes 2.5 or more hours. The casting of Joaquin Phoenix is very strange. I'll talk about that in a minute. But it's worth seeing just for the first 25 or 30 minutes, if you see nothing else. The way it portrays the early days or the early weeks of the French Revolution, putting all the monarchy and the royal bloodlines to the guillotine. You know, they probably painted that about as well as anybody could. And you see the guillotine in action, and it's well done. The feel and every detail is perfect. Whoever, Ridley Scott or whatever, I'm not bowing down before this movie. It's average. But every detail in every scene, if you can just enjoy a movie based on the time and effort put into the costumes and how they portrayed Paris in the late 1700s, that by itself is impressive, extremely impressive. But then at some point, an hour and a half in, the storytelling isn't great and it's slow and it does break down. And Joaquin Phoenix, it's a strange casting. But in a way, though, it makes sense because if you can't fake a French accent, you shouldn't even try, right? Because they surround him mostly with those in the army with a British accent because the American popcorn cruncher can't tell the difference. That's just foreign. That's good enough. It's an insult to everybody else's intelligence, but he just plays himself, like he plays Merle from Signs with Mel Gibson. What's he supposed to try to do, a bad Pepe Le Pew accent? My darling, a Pepe Le Pew. I can't even do it. It sounds like Maurizio from the Titanic. It would sound like a bad Pepe Le Pew. So he said, should we go into Moscow? Shall we invade Moscow and Russia? Yes. Invade Russia. There's no attempt whatsoever at any sort of accent, which is, I'm not sure if that's really good or really bad. Mostly bad. It was a poor cast. Cast somebody else. It just didn't quite work. So in summary, if you have Apple TV, the first 30 minutes are worth it until they take old Robespierre to the guillotine. That pretty much ends it. It's just the guillotine's like an assembly line, and they didn't keep the royal blood or the aristocracy in prisons. They were like held up in these large houses or mansions, but of course they weren't allowed to leave, and they were in line to eventually go to the guillotine until so many months went by, and the sentiment changed, and they said we're gonna stop this endless beheading, and most of them were set free. So the first 30 minutes, if you have Apple TV, is worth it. And then after that, the only type of person that's going to like it is somebody that can appreciate every little detail put into a costume or a way a French street looks, and right down to the most incredible minute detail. Not all, very little CG, mostly real effects, or they're called practical effects. Well, I don't know about the effects, but the way the people on the street are not, they're not cartoon or CG or AI images. They put a ton of effort into it. And that would be enough for some people. To most people, it's going to get a little slow and boring, even though the battle scenes are very well done. It could have been very good, just with a few twists and turns. So let's get back to what's really important, not this little sawed-off actor that also played another emperor. Guys, one last thing here. I'll never get another chance to talk about this. It's a very raunchy scene I'm going to talk about. This is not for kids, this segment. Really, reality breakdown discussions are not for kids, I don't think, anyway. But sometimes younger people pop in here. I enjoy the illusion of this world as long as you can, kids. Don't wait until you don't want to get involved in what we're getting involved in too soon. Go enjoy life. I'm glad I was blind to everything until about age 35, so this is a little raunchy. But there's a scene of the famous Josephine, who, the temptress, Napoleon, it seems like he's in control of her, but through most of it, she's really in control of him. And I don't know any other way to say it. I mean, let me back up. She was the nobility, the aristocracy that was slated to go to the guillotine, and she was let out. She didn't make it to the guillotine. They had let them go in mass at some point. They were set free. I mean, again, the sentiment changed, and they said, we've put enough of these poor devils to the guillotine. And then Napoleon really starts courting her, but she is, I don't know any other way to say it, she's a hoe. I mean, she's just an all-around hoe the way she's portrayed, I don't know about the real history. I wasn't there, but she just loves sex. And of course, as soon as Napoleon goes off into another country, she takes lovers and there's a kinky way about it. Anyway, so Napoleon, here's the point. This is the weirdest thing. I don't know how to talk about it, but I have to. I'm just going to say, like, on their second date, I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's slept with her yet. And he's a big shot at this point. If he's not the top general, he's first consul. I don't think he's the emperor yet, of course, but he's one of the top 3 people in all of France. He's courting her. And they're going to be together, and she leans back in her chair. She has a dress on, and she spreads her legs out. You don't see anything. She's wearing a full dress but Napoleon has a view of it, and she says, and he doesn't look down at it, but she says something. The weirdest thing I've ever seen in a movie. It's what's here. She says, and something like this. If you look at it, or if you look upon it, you will always want it. What? I went, what the hell did she just say? I could see she could say, if you have me or something, if you look at it, I think I'm 99% sure she said, if you just look at it, you will always want it. And then it completely goes to another scene. I'm like, wait a second, come back. What does that mean? I'm not going to go research it to see if she really said it or what the history books say, but I mean, well, what makes yours different than any other coochie? I mean, if you look upon mine, you will always want it? What's so special about yours? And just in its looks? I said, what the hell's going on here? This was very intriguing to me. And then it just went into another scene, but I thought I had to talk about it. Sorry, let's get back to the reality conversation, not what her little coochie looks like. We're getting too bogged down on Napoleon. Let's just leave that aside, because the problems I have apply to any of the big ones, other than maybe Xerxes. The way the Persian Empire was starting to surround Greece. That maybe makes sense, like I mentioned. But here's Genghis the Khan, or Kublai the Khan, or whatever Khan this is. So this is even more impossible, because, and it shows them on horseback here, guys. First off, only 1%, 2%, 3% were on horseback. I mean, you don't have that many horses. And even in the Napoleon movie, there's just the officers, they're marching on foot. 97% are on foot. And let's just say 30% are on horses. There's just no way. You don't have 10, 12,000 horses. You'd still have to feed them and water them. So either way, it hurts somebody taking the other side of the podium against me. So assume you have 500 horses. Well, they have to be fed, and they have to graze, and you have to have water for them. So it doesn't really matter. It's just that if everybody's on foot, it's just a slow march. So here's Genghis, 1,000 miles in 3 different directions, or in all different directions. I guess he didn't go into northern Siberia, well above Mongolia, because there ain't nothing there. He wasn't just squirrel hunting. He went east, he went west, and he went south. Right? Yeah, he would go south into China as well. So, again, where'd they sleep? You don't just go out for 8 days. You go out for 8 months, or it would take 9, 10 months. It would take forever. You're sleeping in the dirt. Let's just go through each part. I know I'm being a little repetitive, but I just don't get this. I'll look to your comments. The water. Matt, they come across rivers. Well, Genghis honestly did, and there's a Gobi Desert and all sorts of things. And enough water to feed tens of thousands of soldiers. The food, the water, even if it's in the most fertile of lands, going across parts of Spain or France. Okay, you can come to a few rivers, and hopefully you come to the rivers at the right time and fill your canteen. But the food's a problem. You just can't, there's not enough game to hunt. Poor little squirrels. You don't have enough squirrels and rabbits and deer to feed massive armies without they just have like some sort of dried fruits and nuts. Well, that might last a week, but what do they do for the other 8 or 9 months? All right, Matt, you're starting to repeat yourself. In doing this, each time I'm looking for something that I'm missing. Like, I must be missing something, because we hear about this over and over again. And somebody's probably trying to scream at me for 20 minutes now saying, well, Matt, they come across a town, and every town they come across, they take all the supplies. And, well, okay, that in some scenarios going in certain directions, that makes sense. But not in Genghis Khan's case. He could go 800 miles with nothing. There's not little crossing Tajikistan. There's no towns. I mean, and if there was, there's not enough to feed entire armies. Napoleon in Europe, okay, coming across every little town he comes across. Give me your meats and cheeses. Give me your meats, cheeses, and crackers. Everybody pass it out through the window. We're going to come in there. Really? Is that how they just went to town after town? And where's the history on that? Where's that? We ever see anything about that? Is that enough to feed, Napoleon armies? Generally, I think he's traveling with 40, the way it was presented in the movie, it didn't spend a lot of time at the Library of Congress, 40 to 50, 60,000 troops. Minimum 35,000 troops, up to, say, 50 or 60 or 70,000, depending on the year, and et cetera, et cetera. So much, and with the coalition forces against him, 100,000. So again, if you're Russian troops fending off Napoleon, well, you might be at several hundred miles from supplies, and you're on your own homeland, and it's a little different. Even that would be very, very difficult. But again, I'm repeating myself. I'll look to your comments. What am I missing? Okay, Amish classroom, what do we do when reality gets really, really confusing? Looking over the classroom here, the old guards all asleep in the front, as usual. The spitballers are doing their thing in the back. We have a segment in the middle, at least maybe 10 paying attention. What do we do? Yes? We return to the absolute basics, the ground level, and we leave no stone unturned. And then we typically run into reality breakdowns and see why we're wasting our time and just say the world's fake and walk away. But that's no fun. If I did that every time, there'd be no video channel. There'd be no 5 videos a week. We wouldn't get a few laughs. So I can't just do that. Just every video, the world is fake, see you tomorrow. That doesn't work. But let's see what happens because we always run into fake world, then that's the greatest news of all time. That's why it's worth doing every single time. So, what's one possible? Matt, let me tell you, Matt, I'm a little disappointed in you. History's fake. Oh, really? I had no idea. I never considered that. Well, I agree with you but not in the case of, say, Napoleon. All right, it's too recent. You just can't you can't just yell as the first grade truther, fake. That's all they do is yell fake, like Ricola. They just yell fake. It's not good enough. Because here's the exercise that I like to do. I've done this many times, but it works for me. You might know if you're over 50, you might know the date your grandfather was born. I know that my grandfather was born in 1912. He's been dead for many, many years, of course. But I know the date if he did the same thing to the date his grandfather was born, that person would know or could know somebody that fought with Napoleon. It's just, in that way, it's just 2 jumps back. Now, that's not official generation jumps, but it's the way I like to do it. I used to do that with the founding fathers of 1776. I know the date my grandfather was born, 1912. If he did the same thing, there's a chance that second jump, could know or have run into a, quote, founding father. The only point in me saying this is it's not that long ago. Can't fake a whole European history. It's not fake. Armies really moved around. But I won't say that too definitively. I keep everything on the table, guys. If somebody comes to me and says, Matt, there's only been a history in this reality plane called Earth for 55 or 60 years. There's nothing before it. All the history is fake. Nothing happened. You're the first generation. I mean, I would listen. I'll keep anything on the table. Reality is broken down to a level that is so bizarre, I would listen. Say, oh, the whole reality was spawned just 5 or 10 years before I was born? Well, it's interesting. Tell me about that. What do you know about that? Where did my mother come from, if that's the case? I would listen. I don't take anything off the table because what we know about how the world works, it never is adequate in explaining these sorts of things. So as we do this, to anybody that's not old guard, this is going to seem completely nuts. Imagine if a family member was listening to this presentation. The first part, they'd be like, well, Matt, you make a pretty good point. How did they get food and water, these big armies? But you just said something about reality morphed a few years before. You're nuts, dude. They would, of course, they're not willing to think that big. I mean, I'm not going to put my roulette chips saying I really believe the reality is only a few years older than me. I don't believe that as my primary theory. But it's possible. So we want to go in these strange places. Here's Genghis the Khan's army. We assume that iteration of human was the same as ours. How do we know? I mean, we have written texts and things like that, but how do we know? Meaning, maybe they could ride a month without water. How do you know? Maybe they did get a lot of their energy from the sun directly, and they only needed to eat tiny little amounts. How do we know? The movies and everything present these huge feasts, and the Mandela effect of Louis or Henry the Eighth or 16th, whatever. He's no longer holding the damn. He's not holding chicken wings like a wing special. He's holding a damn leg, or he's no longer holding it. That's the Mandela effect. These big feasts, right? That's what history and the movies and the books tell us. Oh, let's feast. Maybe that's to cover something. I know this is getting strange, guys, but how else? You come here for big thinking and ideas, and I'll look to your comments. You don't come here for me to play it safe. Maybe the human in 1785 didn't need much food. Maybe that iteration of the body got 80% of what it needs from the sun or minerals or whatever. And it didn't eat much. So you could move gigantic armies around and you just you skin a rabbit every 3 weeks. That's good enough. I'd have no other way to explain it. I'm not going to take it off the table. There's no such thing as small thinking here. The iteration or human 5.0 was much different than what we are today. Back in the Bible, it even has a page after page of people that lived 850. Methuselah isn't even one of the oldest ones in the Bible. I don't know how Methuselah got so popular or world famous. I think he lived to 900. But there's a whole page after page list. This person lived to 1,000 whatever. This person lived to 85. It's strange. And Matt, you take that as completely accurate? Well, I don't take it off the table either. I don't know, but why is it so impossible to think that man and women lived in 900, 1,000, as we see what they do to us? I mean, everything in our whole environment is to keep the mortality tables down in the 70s and 80s, and what they beam us with, what they put in the food and the drink. So with fresh water and fresh air, who knows what the earlier iteration of the human could have done, what it needed to eat. So I'm not just going to first grade truth and just yell fake, because it's only 2 jumps back. Armies did move around. Okay, I don't think that's even harder to fake than those in our community that say all the buildings were here, just inherited. So because this needs to wrap up soon, what Gus is saying, and I'll be Gus from the right stuff in this instance, what Gus is saying is, from what we know about the human now, and the way life is now, and the way the reality is now, from how a rock drops from your hand when you let it go, from this magical force called gravity, to how much a human needs to eat, how much a human needs to sleep, how fast a human can run, how fast a horse can run, how much sunlight somebody needs, vitamin D, can you get energy from what we know now about reality. These movements of armies in the history books, to me, are impossible. Now, I don't think they're fake. I think it's too hard to fake. Napoleon is only 2 jumps back. Attila the Hun, whoever that was, is farther back. Roman armies are farther back. Okay, I got it. So as you go farther back, yes, more can be faked, but it's not that simple. You just can't first grade truth and yell fake. Much rather have somebody go into areas like maybe the human being just absorbed sunlight and didn't need to eat. I'd much rather go there, right? But what we know about reality now, these movements of armies in the past, to me, are impossible. Should we do it one more time for 30 seconds? Water, food, sleeping in the dirt. No, you'd be sick in any cold weather. How about out in the rain, pouring rain at 34? I didn't do it. Could have done it. 34 degrees, pouring rain. Or we're gonna. By the way, if there's no video, there's an ice storm coming. I don't know if it's gonna knock our electricity out. There's an ice storm coming. Great. So I went to the Wawa and stocked up. But sorry, so if there's an extended period of time, guys, there's no video. I didn't just go off to Las Vegas or something, get the Emperor's Suite at Caesars because I'm knocked out for no electricity, ice storm, etc. And the one's coming tonight. So the reason I mention that is it can rain at 29 degrees, and then you get ice. So marching armies in the rain and sleet at 30 degrees, you'd have pneumonia inside of days. They don't have shelters. I'll say it one more time. What the history tells us about armies moving this distance is impossible per what we know about reality today. I'll keep on the table. Reality wasn't the same. It's not as if you just cry fake, then you're not thinking big enough. Before we continue, guys, let me take a minute to be very clear about something. I'm not saying that every army that ever moved is impossible. Most of it probably makes sense. Like here's Santa Anna's plan of attack against the Sam Houston irregulars. I guess he's coming up to get the Alamo. Santa Anna's in the blue, and he's got some other general son of bitch coming up in the green. And this is very doable. They think Texas is their own country anyway. They're in their own backyard. They don't have the Sam Houston irregulars behind them disrupting the supply line. With enough planning and time, they come up 300-400 miles and they make their attack. Okay, fine, believable. But you tell me, for example, if history were to tell me that Santa Anna took over the entire South or invaded Philadelphia or something, this is bullshit. So it's impossible. But we see a lot of that in history. I'm sitting in my house in Philly 200 and some years ago. Santa Anna, I'm knocking on the window. I'm Santa Anna. Who the hell are you? You get your ass back to Mexico. You can't be up here. We'll close with this one. Attila the Hun, the Hunnic Empire of Attila, 445 to 453 AD. You only held it for 8 years? You went through all that for 8 years? What a waste of time. Attila the Hun, the Hunnic Empire. Look at it. Look at Italy down there. The Hunnic Empire is 25 times the size of Italy. I don't know what exactly happened here. Maybe they didn't need to eat. I mean, you're not going to start that stupid shit again, Matt. There's something potentially in reality back then where it's real that we're not accounting for today. It's ignorant to take that off the table because based on what we know about reality, this is impossible. Thanks for listening.